Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, how are my snipers doing today? I hope you guys are doing fantastic. Listen, your boy's still sick, but he is doing much better, especially in terms of energy. So, love to see that from my end because, damn, it's been too many days, right? Too many days of being sick and dealing with this BS. Listen, people, speaking about BS, I know some of you are tired with Bitcoin's price action, right? Do not fear. Do not fear, right? We have talked about this type of price action for a while now, right? We've talked about it for a while. Um, we know Bitcoin has been generally ranging, right? We know Bitcoin has been generally ranging, let's just say roughly from like 92.5K to an average, let's just say, let's say like somewhere around here, right? Obviously, it goes a little higher, just to make it look nicer. We'll just say it's been ranging between 92 to 108K, right? So, with that being said, right, I know a lot of you guys are tired because, when you have money invested in the markets, you know, emotions are tied with it. People will say, especially for traders, don't have your emotions tied into this, da 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 da. And even though it's like, yeah, technically that's great advice. It's much harder to put it in reality, like to make it happen, right? And people that don't, practice their emotions when it comes to this type of stuff, there are definitely, probably a lot of stress involved, especially if you're over leveraging money you can't really afford to lose. Look, right? We know that when we go on the weekly, right, that pretty much this candle over here, right, that happened mid January swept the last weekly, you know, relevant Bitcoin weekly low, right? The last one, right? After that, it comes all the way down here, which I don't believe we will break out of the structure. I do not believe it. I believe this is just accumulation to continue going up. For me, if we broke structure, that would be very, very unorthodox and a bad sign, right? I do not believe we will break now, especially after months of accumulation. You have to realize that we were going sideways for roughly 7.5 months. And I doubt we're going to get a big correction now, right? I really don't believe that, right? Especially that we know historically, right? When we go over here, we know historically there's times where Bitcoin slows down, right? It kind of does the same thing. It's back in January to pretty much finally, the beginning of February is when it finally pumped out. You know, it was going sideways for pretty much a month, or like 5 weeks, right? You got to realize this was at a much lower price. We are pretty much triple that price. Okay. Right. We got to realize that. So there's a lot more money involved. So that's why it's taking longer. Right. I do think in February we probably will get the breakout, in my opinion. The timing doesn't matter too much, right? Although we want to be right with the timing of when it's going to break out, when to cash out. What matters in the day is what the candles tell us. So, we'll see with the timing, but I do believe sometime in February we will, break out. What is the next step ultimately, right? Without too many micro moves, well, it is to get back down to these levels, right? Not only do we have the order block here, right? That swept the weekly low, we also have massive support, right? So we have double confirmation, and this is where I'm going to be looking to leverage trade to finally, get in and, take profits somewhere along the way or just hold it, uh, you know, past this point once it breaks, right? So what does this ultimately mean at the end of the day? Right. Well, I expect Bitcoin to be going down a good amount, right? Roughly another, let's just say, even upwards of $10,000, right? Like 8 to 10,000 max, right? So if that's going to happen, that means Bitcoin is going to drop roughly, let's just say 8%, maybe pushing 9%. Okay. And if that's going to happen, that means altcoins are probably most likely going to drop double that amount, right? On an average basis. So we can assume we can have dips of 20% on average, if not even upwards of 30, if the Bitcoin dominance also goes up a lot at the same time, right? When we go to the Bitcoin dominance, we have pretty much recovered already, right? This is exactly what I said would happen. We'd go down like max 1 to 2%, and then we are going to be looking to be pushing higher, upwards of 61.5%, and then eventually continue going higher, higher, and eventually probably stopping out overall at 70%, right? So we already talked about this. I talked about this in the private community too. So we have all been prepared for this, right? Right, a little minor resistance to go pull back down to continue pushing up. And probably the same thing will happen, right? People are going to start celebrating again once Bitcoin dominance goes down a little bit, and then we're going to have a big leg to the upside. So thing is, it's a double-edged sword when Bitcoin dominance goes up and Bitcoin is going down, because that means a lot of, not only is the market bleeding, but a lot of altcoins are getting put back into, Bitcoin in a way, like the uh dominance and Bitcoin dominance going up and Bitcoin going down is just like a double-edged sword. So like I said, we see upwards of 30% dips. So something like Ondo, which has actually been holding its price pretty respectfully, even this can see upwards of 30% dip, which would be, down to 92 cents. Now, I don't think it should be that intense, right? But let's just say 20%, right? That is roughly around $1, which I have been saying for Ondo for some time. So, great buying opportunities potentially to be coming, right? People that are new in the market or have more money to splash, right? This is just great time to be buying, right? Generally speaking, right? I know some of us have bought, much worse places, right? We probably bought up here or up here, depending which coin. Maybe if you bought render, maybe you bought up here or here. I know a lot of you guys unfortunately buy on green days because your psychology isn't mastered yet, right? You know, in this world of buying crypto, you have to understand that under the right context, so the right context would be we are generally trending up, right? Even though altcoins are suffering, like where the cycle is still happening, right? Because if the context was bear season and you're buying the dips, then no, that's going to end up bad. But the context right now is we are still in the bull run and altcoin season will happen. So now that we know the context, right? A lot of you, right, see this as, oh, green day, I buy confirmation. Red day, oh no, I'm scared, or I sell, which is not good, right? It should be the opposite. In this, right? Probably a lot of you drive, right? So when you see a green light, is usually you want to stop, and when you see a red light, you want to go. That is how I'm putting it in like simple terms that many of you would understand. It is the opposite. So it doesn't make sense, right? It might not make sense from the outside, but it really does. And when we put it into simple terms, you should be buying low and selling high, right? A red day is a dip, right? You're buying at a discount. A green day, you're already buying at a premium price. If something drops 30%, something was valued at $100 and it goes down to $70 and you buy it, you are buying it at a discount. If something is $100 and it goes to $130, right? 30% pump, you are already buying at a premium, right? That is just the way it is. Like I always say, context matters, because if it's some really poo coin where it's not going to recover and it's just going to go to dumps, then of course, like buying on the red day just might end up being worse because you're just buying a coin that it's really poo. But that's just getting into specifics. But generally speaking, right, under the context of we're going to have a bull run and we're going to have altcoin season, red days equals buy, green days equals just don't do anything, right? Um, because unless you want to be flipping, I wouldn't really recommend flipping, right? Some people are like trying to buy, they buy like $1.20 and then they sell like $1.40 and they try to buy it. Like, no, I just don't do that. It's just not worth it. I'm here to just put my money in, consistently stack. And then when it's time to sell, I just cash out and call it a day, and look for more opportunities. But, everyone does their own thing. That's why we have to plan. Right now, since we're on render, this thing is going to go down to like roughly 450. So great buying opportunities with render over the next coming days. But yeah, that is it, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys did enjoy, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Goodbye.